It's a lazy afternoon at the Eastboro Village Apartments on the northeast side of Colorado Springs. In Apartment A, mother of four, Kathy Hickey, is trying to squeeze in a moment's rest.
Because I went to school at night, I was taking a nap, and I was sleeping on the couch when I heard the noises. It was odd hearing the running down the stairs because that's not normal for that time of day. It was usually quiet. I knew something was going on that wasn't supposed to be happening.
Then, the quiet afternoon air is pierced by a blood-curdling scream.
I heard a woman yelling upstairs, "Help, call 911.
Help! Someone help! 911! Oh my God, help! Gosh, what happened?
I went out in the hallway to see the young man laying up at the top of the steps on his back, and he was bleeding.
No, don't run, I have to, he's gonna die. I have to.
I recognized Bobby because I'd seen him around.
Bobby is Kathy's upstairs neighbor.
Go get a towel.
I knew that he had been shot, but I didn't know where. I could hear the blood collecting in his throat.
Oh gosh.
Unable to speak, Bobby motions towards his apartment at the end of the hall.
Wait, is there someone else? Okay. Oh gosh.
I went into the apartment to see what was going on. I heard noises from the back, like running water, so I followed the sound.
Across town, Lt.Joe Kenda is in the middle of a lecture at Pikes Peak Community College.
I was teaching a criminal justice class. That particular class was how to create a crime scene drawing, and my pager went off.
The pager flashes 911, followed by the letters DB, shorthand for dead body.
Final sketch. So go ahead and pass those back. And if you excuse me for a moment.
It was a page from the communications center of the police department.
I have to apologize. There's been a homicide, and I need to go to work.
And you guys will just have to carry on. Everyone sort of sat there in shock.
You have your assignments, so I'll see you all next week, same time.
I am a sworn member of the Colorado Springs Police Department. That is what I do. Homicide takes priority over everything.
Witness stated they heard multiple gunshots around 3:30 p.m. and called police. 10 minutes later, police are here on the scene at Coleridge Drive.
Because of the time of day when I got to this particular address, the press was there in force. When you have a crime scene at 3:30 in the morning, it's much more easily controlled. When you do one at 3:30 in the afternoon, it is the Tower of Babel. Everybody wants to talk.
Excuse me.
There is an enormous amount of emotion, a lot of activity. There are a lot of potential witnesses.
So what do we got?
That's a young boy, about 15 to 18 years old, and he's been shot.
The identity of this young man is Robert Addison Jr. Everybody knows him as Bobby. He is 16 years old. He's a student in a local public school.
Where can I find him?
They've already taken him to the hospital. It's pretty bad.
The trauma surgeons discover why he can't talk. That wound, the bullet, cuts his tongue in half, and they find the slug in his mouth.
A teenage victim is unusual. But today, it's only half the equation.
There's a second victim up in the apartment.
Second one.
Yes, sir. Her name is Ernestine Addison, she's 40 years old. It's the boy's mother.
I was going to say.
That changes the whole dynamic. This is now a multiple event.
This is where they found the first victim.
What are you hearing from the neighbors?
Well, like neighbors are thinking it's murder-suicide.
Murder-suicide is always an initial thought process that comes into my head when I see multiple victims in a private home. So then the question becomes, did Ernestine get angry at her son? Did he say or do something that set her off?
Shut up! Shut up!
Once inside the Addison home, Kenda looks for evidence to support the murder-suicide theory.
I find no notes in this apartment, no ramblings about why Bobby's a bad kid and why I have to die and take him to heaven with me. None of that.
Kenda ultimately makes his way to the bedroom down the hall.
I see a female face down on a single bed. She has multiple gunshot wounds to the back. I see 2 through her clothing. She's fully dressed. I further see what's referred to as a powder halo.
A powder halo is a circular burn mark created when gunpowder is expelled from a gun barrel.
Looking at that 3-inch halo tells me that gun was fired at a range of less than 12 inches. So our shooter is very determined not to miss.
What you can assume from Ernestine's position is that she was trying to get away.
This is not a woman shooting her son. Could it be her son shooting his mother?
Get this gun out of my face!
So I want to know all I can about where he's hit, how he's hit. Is he hit multiple times? So I call my officer at the hospital by radio.
Lieutenant Kenda, Officer Duffy.
Officer Duffy, go ahead.
Can I get an update on Bobby Addison's condition?
According to the officer, Bobby Addison was shot in his side. The bullet was fired with an upward trajectory, traveling through his ribcage into his throat, before lodging at the base of his brain.
They determined that the entrance and exit wounds weren't consistent with Bobby Addison being the shooter.
Murder-suicide? Nope. Murder? Oh, yeah.
Kenda begins to piece together the victims' positions at the time they were attacked.
The wound to Bobby Addison might explain the shooter standing over him.
I suspect he's on top of his mother when he gets shot. Is he there to kill Bobby, or is he there to kill Ernestine? Which one is the target? I think he's trying to protect her and is pushed off. In the course of that event, Bobby runs out of the place to try to get help and doesn't get very far.
Sir, the surgeon told me that the subject expired.
I get the word at that moment from the hospital that Bobby died. He's just been pronounced okay. So now we have 2 dead.
What's so sad about that? Here's a brave teenage boy willing to do whatever he can to try to save his mother.
He's 16, he's still a child to me. And you hear that over the air, and it's very cold and matter of fact. That's what police are, cold and matter of fact. But internally, you think, God, 16.
10-4, thank you. Kenda out.
With murder-suicide ruled out, Kenda needs to know who committed this crime and why.
I'm looking for signs of a struggle. There aren't any. I'm looking for forced entry. There isn't any. There is food out that's about to be prepared for an evening meal. And some of it is already in pots and pans.
It's clear to Kenda that the killer didn't force his way into the apartment. He was invited.
Everything about this apartment says life is going on, when all of a sudden, somebody introduces a gun.
Positive the killer knew his victims, Kenda heads back to the parking lot to touch base with his officers, who are busy interviewing potential eyewitnesses.
We're going through the usual witness list of neighbors, and we find a 7th grade girl who goes to school with Bobby.
Hey, Lieutenant. This young lady thinks she saw something. She's not going to help you.
How you doing? I'm Detective Kenda. What's your name?
Darlene.
You possibly heard or saw something?
She hears an argument going on. She hears a woman's voice say, "Leave me alone."
There's a loud bang, and there's a man that ran by me.
Could the loud bang have been a gunshot?
No, didn't sound like it, just a loud bang. But she's a kid. Okay, continue.
You saw where he went? Did you see what he was wearing?
I see a heavy-set black guy, and he's wearing a suit. He looks really nice.
He ran across the street and got in a truck car.
When she said truck car, that had to be a Chevrolet El Camino, or it was going to be a Ford Ranchero.
It's not much, but it could be just the tip Kenda needs to break the case.
When you consider the statement of this young girl, she is a kid. She's not lying to you. She has no motivation to do so. She sees this man walking quickly away, getting into a car, backing out fast. You see this shadow man. He's there. This could be our guy. So what is really known at this point is we have multiple victims. And we don't know enough about them yet. Speed is what we're after here. Speed in investigations is something that drives me because speed kills. I will get to you as quickly as I can.
Lieutenant Kenda starts with one of the first witnesses on the scene, downstairs neighbor, Kathy Hickey.
How well did you know Ernestine and Bobby?
We're neighbors, so I'd see Bobby, from time to time.
I knew Bobby and Ernestine just by passing in the hallway and talking to them and saying hi and visiting with them. Bobby, he was clean cut. He was a nice kid. They attended church.
Ernestine worked at a local hospital as a nurse's assistant and was dedicated to what she did, enjoyed it very much. Bobby is a really solid kid and a good student, did not associate with troublemakers in the school.
My mother had a big heart. She was a giver. She loved people, and she was best known for her laugh. It was so contagious. Bobby was very quiet.
All right, baby, love you.
Love you too.
But he was still a very powerful young man. Bobby was very protective of both me and my mother, and really the entire family.
Was Ernestine married?
From what I know, I guess they separated a few years ago.
My mother and father divorced. It was just a volatile situation, and it was best at that time that they did separate.
Kenda is intrigued. Is it possible that Ernestine's ex-husband, Robert Addison, is the well-dressed man spotted fleeing the scene?
In almost all cases of multiple deaths in a family member is the one responsible. Someone who's always been connected, that gets driven to the breaking point. We learn right away that Robert Addison Sr. is a civil service employee at a very large Army post in Colorado Springs. He's been divorced from her for some period of time. He's paying child support for at least one child. Is he tired of doing that? Whoever committed this crime was really angry. Hence the multiple close gunshot wounds. Emotional rage. What better choice than the ex-husband?
When Kenda arrives at Fort Carson, he finds Robert Addison in his office.
Robert?
Yes.
Detective Kenda.
Nice to meet you.
Can you tell me where you've been all day today?
Why?
No one wants to be in that moment when men announce they're detectives and want to talk to you about a situation. Whatever it is, you know it certainly isn't good.
You want to observe their response, their reaction to the information that you're providing them to give you some kind of idea as to what their involvement may be.
Can you tell me about your relationship with your ex-wife, Ernestine?
We're civil. We get along just fine.
It was obvious that Mr. Addison Sr. had a relationship with his son and also remained fond and connected to his ex-wife.
Again, can you tell me where you've been today?
Yes. I've been right here.
Is there anyone here that can confirm that?
Yes. Greg.
How you doing? I'm Detective Kenda. Has Robert been here the whole day?
Yes, he has.
Robert is at work, surrounded by coworkers at the time frame of the murder. He is 15 miles away from this scene at the time this crime occurred.
And he didn't leave and come back at all?
No.
You're sure of that?
Yeah. We've been in meetings all day.
Robert cannot be the guy. He has no opportunity to commit this crime. We're back to Mr. X again. And we don't know who Mr. X is.
Okay, thank you for your help.
Sure.
Robert, you might want to have a seat.
All right.
I can inform him of the deaths. There's no easy way to do that. There's no pleasant way to do it. It just happens.
My dad would rarely cry, but my dad actually did cry that day.
What the question then becomes obvious. Now what? We need to talk to people close to Ernestine to find out if they know who could be connected to her.
Kenda arrives at the home of Ernestine's mother, Maddie Wilson.
Yes.
Ma'am, I'm Detective Kenda.
No.
Are you Ernestine Addison's mother?
Yes, sir. I am.
Ernestine's mother escorts Kenda into the living room. On the couch is her son, Lincoln.
Do you mind if I turn off the TV?
Please.
They've been watching this on television.
Oh.
They are anticipating the worst, and the worst arrives at the front door.
Mom was upset that it was on the news before she was told. To receive information that way is devastating.
One of the great downsides of the press and their desire to be first on the scene is they're putting this building on TV. They know she lives there. Imagine how difficult it makes it for them.
Can you think of anyone that would want to do something like this to Ernestine or Bobby?
Did you look for Ernestine's boyfriend?
She had a boyfriend.
Really? A boyfriend, you said? How long has she had this boyfriend?
First time that I'd met him, we had a birthday party for my mother. And Ernestine had brought him as her guest to the dinner and had introduced him to our family. He was trying too hard to be liked.
What's his name?
I'm sorry, I don't remember that.
But that's all he could recall. But he has something that's a key point for me. Now we have a new guy who is somehow emotionally involved.
But without a name, Kenda is flying blind.
Again, I'm very sorry for your loss. And I appreciate the help. I'll let myself out.
Part of the frustration of the work is the nameless and faceless guy that you're always looking for, this mysterious demon that's out there somewhere. We've gone away from Mr. X. We've gone to Mr. Boyfriend. Who's he? So at this point, where is this unraveling of information proceeding? Well, we have Ernestine Addison dead. We have her son dead. We have her ex-husband eliminated as a possibility. But we do have this boyfriend. And we haven't even identified him yet. So when we're talking to her brother, and he says, I'm sorry that my information isn't that good because I don't really know that much. But I know someone who might. And who's that?
Ernestine had a friend, Linda Gleason. At the hospital, she was friends with Ernestine. She'd know.
We find Linda at her place of employment at the hospital.
Hey, Dr. Abaddon, please report to ICU.
Linda?
Yes.
I'm Detective Kenda.
Hi.
I'm very sorry to have to tell you this. Your friend Ernestine was killed along with her son.
She's extremely distraught when she learns that Ernestine is no longer with us. We have to let her settle for a few minutes before we can talk about anything else.
I know this is difficult, but I need your help. Can you tell me about her boyfriend?
She knows a lot about this guy.
Yes. He was older. Maybe 15 or 20 years older. Always in a suit and tie, shined shoes.
Linda says she's only met him once or twice.
Can you tell me what his name is?
Bryant something. I don't know his full name. They met in a bar maybe a year ago or more. He seemed pretty interested in her.
Had a wonderful time.
So did I. It was just great.
This wasn't the kind of thing where it was, you know, a short-lived romance or one-night stand or anything like that. I mean, they'd developed a pretty strong relationship.
He's a good date, he dresses nicely, he's got a job, he probably pays some bills.
According to Linda, nothing about Ernestine's boyfriend seemed out of the ordinary. At least, not at first.
You know, I think that he was more interested in her than she was in him.
Linda says he's just really possessive.
How powerful can jealousy be? More powerful than a thermonuclear explosion.
That's when Linda Gleason divulges a key piece of information.
I think she was ready for it to be over.
She's a little tired of this guy and kind of wants to maybe move him out of her life and doesn't quite know how to do it.
Ernestine had recently booked a trip to Florida to think things over and to visit an old flame.
To exit this relationship, it's gonna be difficult to do. So I think she began to plan a trip to Florida. It's a way out, fresh surroundings.
Ernestine.
Mm-hmm.
What's this? What is this, a plane ticket to Florida?
Where did you get that?
It doesn't matter where I got this from.
She mentioned that she was going to go maybe see this guy when she was down there, or at least call him. And then he exploded when she said that.
Go down and see that old fool that you used to deal with.
This is none of your business. You need to give me my ticket back.
We ain't through with this yet.
I like possessive. In this vein, I like it a lot. You just became the prime suspect.
You know where I can find Bryant?
He works in the furniture department of JCPenney in Citadel Mall.
Thank you. Excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir.
How you doing? I'm Detective Kenda.
Nice to meet you. My name's Douglas.
Nice to meet you.
So we speak to a supervisor in the furniture sales area.
Is there somewhere we could talk in private?
In private? Yes, right this way. What can I do for you?
you have an older black gentleman that works for you, dresses real nice?
Yes, Urban, one of my best salespeople.
Bryant?
Bryant, Urban Bryant.
So Bryant is his last name, yes.
Do you have a file on him?
Yes, right here.
You mind if I take a look at it?
No, go right ahead.
His name is Urban Columbus Bryant. He is 57 years old. So he is, in fact, 17 years older than Ernestine. It says a month or two earlier that he leaves work without permission because he was upset. Well, what was it?
I think it was something at home with his wife.
He has a wife?
He has a wife, yes.
So, Mr. Bryant, how is it that you have a wife and you have a girlfriend?
Kenda sifts through the file, looking for more information on Irvin Bryant's other half.
He is married to a woman named Emma Bryant. Emma is 69 years old. The file indicates they've been married for a very, very long time, 30 plus years.
Could it be that Irvin's wife Emma got wind of his relationship with Ernestine and flew into a jealous rage?
Old expression in the world. Don't monkey with somebody else's monkey. What if Emma decides this isn't cool? Emma goes over and blasts everybody. Is that possible? Yeah.
Do you mind if I use your phone?
No, go right ahead.
Kenda tracks down the Bryant's home address in hopes of cross-referencing it for any arrest reports or incidents of domestic violence.
Hello, this is Lt.Joe Kenda with the Colorado Springs Police Department. Is it possible you could verify an address for me? It's a 11465 Loomis.
When I bring up the address and the name, the Sheriff's Department says, oh my God, we're there right now.
Who's there right now?
I almost dropped the phone.
For exclusive footage, go to investigationdiscovery.com. In Colorado Springs, Lt.Joe Kenda is zeroing in on 57-year-old Irvin Bryant, his prime suspect in the double homicide of Ernestine Addison and her teenage son, Bobby.
We call the Sheriff's Department. What they say to me shocks me to no end.
They were advised that the sheriff's office was on scene at the Bryant residence where a shooting had occurred.
They got one dead in the front yard and a barricaded gunman. Who's in the front yard? My immediate thought, it just makes your chest fall. You think, oh, we didn't do it quick enough, did we? He's still executing his mission.
Kenda jumps in his car and speeds across the county line, bound for Loomis Avenue.
His address is Loomis Avenue, so we would have to refer to the El Paso County Sheriff's Department, which has jurisdiction.
But even after arriving at the scene, Kenda's hands are tied.
You arrive at that scene, it's not your scene. You have no control over this. You might as well be in Cincinnati, Ohio.
How you doing?
Yes, sir.
Lieutenant Kenda, Colorado Springs?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we had a double homicide earlier today, and the suspect lives at this address.
Yeah, we had a 911 call. Neighbors called in, said that a female was shot by a male. We called for SWAT, they're on the way, but we set up a containment.
Kenda continues to scan the cordoned-off area, searching for clues that might definitively tie Irvin Bryant to the murder of Ernestine and Bobby Addison. There in the driveway is the evidence he's looking for.
The Chevrolet El Camino in the driveway is the truck car in question.
The vehicle is an exact match for the one Kenda's teenage eyewitness saw leaving the crime scene.
This is my killer. The trouble is, he's not done killing yet. She collapses face first in the driveway. He retreats into the house and slams the door. So in the sheriff's original officers arrive, they see a dead woman in the yard. They know there's a man inside with a gun, and they cover the four sides of the building, and they take cover from gunfire.
The SWAT team comes out, and when they're called out, that really escalates people's panic or concern or whatever. Is he still in there? Is he holding hostages? You know, what is going on?
You cannot predict what's going to happen next. You cannot. What if this guy's wired this house with explosives? What if he has an automatic weapon he hasn't broken loose yet?
While SWAT surrounds the Bryant residence, Kenda takes a closer look at the lifeless body lying in the driveway.
She's motionless, face down in frozen concrete.
Kenda can only assume he is looking at the body of Irvin's wife, Emma Bryant.
Emma was described as being very nice and religious, very neighborly, very friendly, would always wave at him.
But neighbors can't imagine that Irvin was capable of such a heinous act.
How you doing?
Doing good.
There's Emma and Irvin. Hey, Irvin.
Hey, Lee. Oh, look, it's Judy.
She's just out taking a walk, a brisk
Oh,
walk.
that's what I need to be doing. I'm over here raking these leaves.
They all say they're wonderful. They're a loving family, lived there for more than 20 years. And they don't believe that Irvin is in that house. It is some madman that has come in from somewhere and killed his wife.
Is there some mysterious madman holed up at the Bryant residence? Or is Irvin Bryant the murderer, hunkered down inside this suburban home?
No one thinks it's Irvin that's in the house. The one that thinks it's him is me.
But Kenda won't know for sure until the El Paso County SWAT team brings him out, hopefully alive.
This is the Sheriff's Department. We need you to come out. No one wants to hurt you. All we want to do is talk.
He receives no reply. At this point, force is the only option left.
There's all sorts of issues to consider before you just jump in.
On the SWAT call, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of fear, and anybody that says they aren't scared is lying to you.
73 weren't positioned.
This is a moment where maybe you're going to go home tonight and maybe you're not. Everybody has a responsibility. We're all looking for a bad guy in 5 locations. The entry team finds the bedroom door that's closed. Now we have a second entry that has to take place. Everybody's very quiet, and what they find is more than they expected to find. So we have a woman and her son that are dead from gunshot wounds. Ernestine Addison and Bobby. We have somebody down and dead in the front yard. Another woman. What if our man is on a mission? What if he isn't done making people dead yet? Uh-oh. We need to get on this right now. No one thinks it's Irvin that's in the house. The one that thinks it's him is me. When there was no further gunfire and no replies from inside that home, I believed that he was dead. He has a gunshot wound to the head. He has a gun in his hand.
The wound is still fresh, as evidenced by the blood dripping from the man's mouth and nose.
clear.
Okay, now we have control.
How you doing? You mind if I take a look?
Sure, go ahead, Lieutenant.
Thank you. You bet.
I noticed a bullet hole, probably a shot that missed the wife. So he was actively shooting at this woman. As I walked toward the room in question where the body was found, I could see blood trail coming from that room to the outside.
When Kenda reaches the bedroom, he takes a good look at the man slumped over at the foot of the bed.
Find ID on him? Check.
A search of the dead man's pockets makes it official.
That's my guy, Irvin Bryant.
From the position of the body, Kenda can envision the horrific final moments of Irvin Bryant's life.
Kneeling next to the bed when he reloads. There's a box of ammunition near his knee. They're scattered around the floor. He gets the weapon loaded. He then uses it to shoot himself in the head.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
With Irvin's identity confirmed, there is no arrest to be made.
When I was walking out of that house, my thought was, well, Irvin, you son of a bitch, you've been a busy guy today. A very busy guy. And I really am sorry I didn't find you sooner. And maybe not as many people would have died here today.
Anytime you have someone who kills other people and then kills themselves, it's frustrating because it's their last act of control, and it feels, to the human spirit, unfair.
Even so, Kenda's work isn't done. He has the gun and the bullets collected from the Bryant residence analyzed by the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. They compare them to the bullets recovered from the bodies of Ernestine and Bobby Addison.
The .38 caliber slugs that we found in our victims, the .38 caliber gun in his hand, absolutely 100%, he's our guy.
Based on this evidence and the gruesome details of the two crime scenes, Kenda solidifies his theory of how Irvin Bryant's killing spree went down.
Irvin seemed to place great importance on his connection to Ernestine. She was the be-all and the end-all, and that certainly speaks to possession. He becomes convinced that there is some sort of activity going on that he can't put his finger on, but it may involve her being involved with some man in Florida.
What happens is when you're so emotionally invested in a relationship, when you start seeing it slip away, that you do start thinking things like, I've got to stop them from leaving me. And the way I stop them from leaving me is to prevent them from ever leaving me. And to do that, you have to kill somebody.
Ernestine.
Yeah, Irvin, it's open. Come on in.
Hey, Irvin.
Hey.
He walks into that apartment because he does it routinely. I don't think that alarms anybody when he does that. He either enters with a key or it's unlocked and he walks in. Bobby and his mother are there.
Just getting dinner ready here. How you doing?
Doing good.
You hungry?
No. Look, Ernestine, we need to talk about this whole deal in Florida.
He confronts both of them about her need to go to Florida.
You know what? We've already discussed this, okay?
No, we didn't discuss anything, okay? No, you don't understand. No, see, I can't allow this to happen. I can't allow you to leave.
You don't tell me what to do. That's the problem. You're always trying to control me.
Look.
He draws a gun.
You are always trying to... Now,
I'm not asking you what you're going to do.
Oh, my God.
I didn't ask you. I told you you're not going nowhere. Wait, what you want to do? Huh?
Stop, man. Get out of here.
Get out of here. You want to leave me?
No.
Huh? You want to leave me?
Bobby gets between his mother and that gun.
No. Oh, no.
That's probably when the little girl hears mom say, "Leave me alone." He's not going to leave you alone. He's going to kill you.
Having taken the lives of Ernestine and her son, Irvin Bryant's descent into madness deepens.
At some point in that period of 2 hours, he makes a decision. This isn't over. I need to kill Emma.
Irvin, no! No! Irvin, no! No! No!
And then I need to kill myself. And that's what he does.
I think about Ernestine and Bobby, the whole killing of my sister and nephew created a void that you can never fill.
What we miss out on most, losing my mother and my brother, is just all that they bring to the table, all of their gifts and all of their talents that we're not able to share in because they're no longer here.
Emotion has the terrible habit of overcoming your judgment, but humans recover from emotional events. If you introduce a gun, no one's going to recover. They're just going to die. It's a permanent answer to a temporary problem. They act on the emotion. And that is all.
The headline hits like a fist against glass. Toronto 1998 homicide finally solved. 3 words do the damage. Finally, solved, 1998. And the city's memory flinches on cue, because Toronto doesn't forget the cases that never stopped bleeding. But when you peel back the ink, when you lean close enough to smell the paper, you find the rot under the certainty. Solved, they say. Solved by whom, exactly? Solved with what? A name. A confession. A body that finally tells the truth after decades of silence. Or solved the way people solve a puzzle when they're tired of looking at it, by forcing the last piece to fit, even if the picture cracks. It begins the way cold cases love to begin, with a small detail that never should have mattered, and then mattered forever. A streetlight buzzing on a damp spring night. A payphone blinking like a weak star. A grey sedan idling too long at the curb, exhaust curling into the air like a warning nobody could read. It's 1998. The city is loud, bright, moving. Downtown breathes in waves, clubs, late diners, taxis, laughter spilling onto sidewalks. People feel safe in crowds. People always feel safe in crowds. That's the trick. On the east side, in a pocket of quiet between construction and old brick, there's a converted warehouse building that still smells faintly of oil and cold metal. Not the kind of place you expect tragedy, which is exactly why it picks places like that. A second-floor studio. One narrow stairwell. A hallway lined with doors that never quite close right. It's the kind of building where footsteps echo, where you can hear a neighbor's TV through the wall, where a scream can sound like a dropped pan, if you want it to. Her name, for the record, is Mara Ellison. 28. Not famous. Not rich. Not someone the city would have noticed if she walked past you on Yonge Street with her collar turned up against the wind. She works at a small print shop off Queen, ink under her nails, paper cuts on her fingertips, a steady laugh that comes easy when she feels safe. She has a brother in Scarborough, who calls too often and apologizes for it. She has a best friend who says Mara always took the long way home, because she liked the lights on the water. She has an ex who claims he's moved on. Everyone claims things. On the night she dies, the timeline is clean at first. Too clean. Friends later say she left work around 6. Picked up groceries. You can picture it, plastic bags biting into her hands, the soft clunk of cans, the smell of oranges. Someone at the corner store remembers her, because she paid with exact change and joked about the rising cost of milk. It's a small memory, the kind that feels harmless. It becomes a nail hammered into history. She gets home sometime after 7. There's a voicemail on her machine later, one message, short, breathy, like the caller didn't want to be heard. The tape will be played so many times investigators can recite the rhythm of it in their sleep. No clear words. Just air, a faint click, and something that sounds like a television in the background. Some swear they hear a laugh. Others swear it's a cough. Humans are good at hearing what they are desperate to hear. At 8:19 p.m., her neighbor downstairs complains to his girlfriend about someone walking heavy upstairs. He won't remember it until a detective asks, days later, voice sharp as a blade. Heavy footsteps. Not a fight. Not a crash. Just someone moving with purpose. At 8:43, another tenant hears a thump. 1. A single blunt punctuation mark in a night full of noise. She thinks it's a door slamming. She turns up the volume on her stereo. And then nothing. That's what haunts people. Not the chaos. The absence of it. The quiet that follows, as if the building itself is holding its breath. Mara is found the next morning by the landlord, a man who collects rent like he's collecting sins. He's there because she didn't answer his knock, and she always answers. Always. She's the kind of tenant who apologizes for being late before she's late. He unlocks the door with a key that sticks in the frame. The door opens halfway and catches on something. He pushes, annoyed. The smell hits first, stale air, iron, something sweet and wrong. When the door finally gives, he sees her on the floor of the living room, half in the shadow of the couch, one arm bent awkwardly, as if she tried to crawl. As if she tried to reach for the phone that sits untouched on the small table by the window. The first officers on scene don't speak for a full 10 seconds. That detail makes it into the notes. 10 seconds of trained professionals forgetting how to breathe. Mara's eyes are open. That's another detail. Open eyes are cruel. They make the dead look like witnesses. The cause of death, initially, is blunt force trauma. Head injury. A heavy object, swung with intent, or a fall engineered by someone who knew how gravity works. There's blood, but not the kind of splatter you see in movies. This isn't art. It's economy. A brutal efficiency that says the person who did it wasn't improvising. Or they were, and they were lucky. Luck is always a suspect. There are no signs of forced entry. The locks are intact. The windows closed. The chain on the door unhooked, like she let someone in and didn't think twice. That's the first fork in the road. Because if she knew her killer, the list is small enough to feel personal. If she didn't, then the building is a nightmare with too many doors. Her purse is on the counter. Her wallet inside. Cash untouched. Jewelry still on her body. Not robbery. Not a random smash and grab. But the VCR is missing. The landlord insists it was there. A cheap black unit, nothing special, the kind people pawn for beer money. Why take that, and not the TV? Why remove the one machine that records? In 1998, home surveillance isn't common. But recording is. Tapes. Messages. Home videos. People store their secrets in plastic rectangles. The detectives assigned are the kind you see in yearbook photos with hard eyes and softer smiles, Detective Paul Hargrove and Detective Lena Velez. They arrive with coffee that goes cold instantly, notebooks open, voices low. They walk the apartment like the floor might talk back. They photograph everything. The groceries still half unpacked. A carton of eggs unbroken. A loaf of bread crushed on one side. A single orange rolling under the table like it tried to escape. There's a glass in the sink. 1. Rinsed but not washed. Lipstick residue on the rim. Mara's shade. But beside it, on the counter, there's another glass. Dry. Clean. A guest's glass. Or staged. Or old. In a cold case, everything becomes a riddle. They find a faint smear on the wall near the entryway, maybe blood, maybe dirt. They swab it. They bag it. They label it with the kind of optimism only fresh cases have. They collect fingerprints. Too many. Mara's. The landlord's. Random partials. The building is a carousel of hands. Everyone touches everything. Everyone is everywhere. It's the perfect environment for a killer who wants to vanish into noise. Then the first strange thing. The phone cord. The wall phone in the kitchen, beige, coiled cord like a snake, has been yanked hard enough to expose bare wire. Not cleanly cut. Torn. A struggle. Someone tried to call. Someone tried to stop her. The cord lies on the floor like a severed vein. In Mara's bedroom, her bed is made tight. Hospital corners. The kind of neat that suggests she didn't go to sleep. Or she did, and someone made it after. The dresser drawer is slightly open, just a finger's width. Inside, nothing obvious is missing. But the drawer is open for a reason. Drawers don't drift open by themselves, not unless someone's hands were shaking. The building's hallway offers another whisper. Outside Mara's door, on the worn carpet, investigators spot a faint scuff mark. Like a shoe dragged, like someone pivoted fast. They photograph it. It looks like nothing. It will later become a battlefield in courtrooms that never happen, a smudge interpreted 100 ways by people hungry for meaning. The community reacts the way communities always do when a murder slips into their routine. First comes shock. Then fear. Then blame. Neighbors stop making eye contact. People lock doors they used to leave cracked. The building's tenants begin to rewrite their own memories, tightening timelines, sharpening details, turning normal noises into ominous ones. Someone claims they heard a man's voice in the stairwell that night. Someone else says they saw a woman in a red coat leave the building quickly. Another says there was a grey sedan outside for an hour with its lights off. These stories spread like smoke. None of them form a fire you can hold. The press finds the case fast. A young woman, dead in her own apartment, no forced entry, missing VCR, torn phone cord, every element is a hook. Cameras show up. Microphones. Reporters with grave faces. The building's address becomes a cursed phrase people whisper at work, at dinner tables, on buses. Mara becomes the victim more than she is Mara. Her picture appears on TV, a soft smile, hair tucked behind one ear, eyes that look like they trust the world. The world doesn't deserve that face. Detective Valles interviews Mara's friend, Shannon, who sits with her hands clenched so tightly her knuckles turn pale. Shannon says Mara mentioned someone had been calling lately. Hanging up. Breathing. Shannon says Mara laughed it off, probably wrong number, but her laugh in the retelling sounds thin. Shannon says Mara also talked about a man she'd seen twice near her building. Not someone she recognized. Not someone she could describe clearly. Just a feeling. A watchful presence. The kind you ignore, because acknowledging it would mean admitting you're not safe. Detective Hargrove talks to the ex, Derek, who shows up looking offended by the implication that he might be dangerous. He has an alibi, he says. A friend's place. Watching hockey. The friend confirms. Their stories match like rehearsed lines. Hargrove writes it down anyway, because in homicide, matching stories can be coincidence or choreography. They canvass the block. They check pawn shops for the VCR. They request phone records. In 1998, that's a slower kind of magic. Paper trails. Delays. By the time they get anything, the moment has already evaporated. And then, tucked into the evidence log like a quiet bomb, comes the lab result. The smear near the entryway isn't dirt. It's blood. Not Mara's. A second person's blood in her home. That should be the turning point. That should be the moment the case snaps into focus. But in 1998, DNA databases are smaller. Matches are rarer. A blood sample without a name is just a ghost in a test tube. The detectives stare at that report like it's a map written in a language they don't speak. Somewhere out there is the owner of that blood. Someone who bled in Mara's apartment and lived long enough to disappear. Someone who made a mistake. Or wanted them to think it was a mistake. Days turn into weeks. The building returns to its routine with the forced cheerfulness of denial. New tenants move in. The landlord replaces the lock. People repaint walls. Life tries to erase what happened. But the case doesn't let go. It becomes a file that gets thicker, heavier, colder. It becomes a name on a whiteboard that never fully gets erased. And then, just as the city starts to accept that this is one of those stories with no ending, that same headline returns in different forms, whispers in precinct hallways, murmurs in newsroom corners. Toronto 1998 homicide finally solved. As if saying it enough times can make it true. As if certainty is a spell. Because when a case like Mara Ellison's lingers long enough, it doesn't just haunt the victim's family. It haunts the police. It haunts the city. It haunts anyone who ever walked into a quiet hallway and wondered whether silence is safety, or just the sound of someone waiting. The blood that isn't hers sits in the lab report like an accusation with no face, and Hargrove holds the paper the way you hold a photograph pulled from a fire, careful, because it can still burn, because even the edges feel hot. Valesse doesn't blink when she reads it. She just lets the silence stretch until it becomes a weapon, then she asks the only question that matters. Where did it come from, and why did it leave alive? The crime scene techs go back through their notes with trembling precision, rechecking swabs, rechecking bags, rechecking chain of custody like they're trying to rewind time. The smear was near the entryway, height consistent with a hand bracing against the wall, or a forearm sliding as someone stumbled. A cut. A scrape. A knuckle split on a door frame. Violence leaves signatures in skin. They walk Mara's apartment again, slower this time, like the place might confess if they stare long enough. The torn phone cord becomes less like a detail and more like a scream frozen into plastic. They trace it back to the wall jack, look at the jagged copper strands, the way it's ripped instead of severed. Someone yanked it hard. In panic. In rage. Or with the practiced motion of someone who's done it before. The kitchen is clean in the way a kitchen becomes clean when nobody has cooked yet. A bag of groceries still on the counter. A can of soup tipped on its side like it was dropped mid-step. Nothing here says she had time to think. Hargrove flips open his notebook and starts drawing the night into boxes. 612, corner store. 705, apartment door. 819, heavy footsteps. 843, a thump. Then darkness. He hates the gap. Gaps are where killers live. He circles it again and again until the ink blurs. The phone records finally arrive in a manila envelope that looks too ordinary to carry something so poisonous. Local calls. Long distance. A handful of numbers scrawled across pages like a confession written in code. One set repeats, hang-ups, brief connections, calls under 10 seconds. The kind of calls that never give you a voice, only a presence. They trace it. A payphone. Not one payphone, several. Different corners. Different blocks. A pattern that's almost clever. Almost. Someone is moving around, using the city like a mask. Velez sends uniforms to check the locations anyway, even though it's days late and the payphones have swallowed 100 other hands since then. One payphone is outside a late-night diner where grease coats the air. Another is near a subway entrance that smells like wet concrete. Another is beside a convenience store where teenagers loiter and laugh too loud. A killer using public phones isn't just cautious. It's theatrical. It says, I can vanish into your routines. I can stand beside you while you wait for the light to change. They pull surveillance where they can, but 1998 isn't generous with cameras. Some stores have grainy tapes. Some tapes are recorded over. Some owners shrug, annoyed at the inconvenience, as if murder is a customer complaint. A diner manager produces a VHS cassette from beneath the counter like he's pulling out a dirty secret. The tape is warped. The picture swims. Faces smear into ghosts. But for a few seconds, just a few, there's a figure outside the payphone at 9:03 p.m. A man, maybe. A hooded jacket. Hands in pockets. He turns his head toward the street as if checking for someone. The image freezes on the monitor, and the room goes still. Not because they've found him. Because they haven't. It's an outline, a silhouette, a shadow with no name. The missing VCR becomes the obsession. Not because it's valuable, because it's specific. The killer didn't grab her TV. Didn't take her stereo. Didn't touch her wallet. But took the one device that could hold tapes. Home movies. Recorded calls. Her answering machine tape itself is still there, but the VCR is gone, as if someone feared what a tape might reveal. Mara's brother swears she didn't even watch many movies. She mostly listened to radio. So why would someone risk time, risk noise, to carry a bulky VCR down a stairwell? Unless the VCR wasn't stolen. Unless it was removed. Pawn shops along Queen and Dundas get visited, then revisited, detectives leaning over counters, flashing badges, describing a cheap black unit with a scratched top panel and a missing rubber foot. The clerks shake their heads. Some offer lists of recent buys. Most offer nothing but impatience. A shop on Spardina produces a VCR that matches the general description, but when Shannon comes to identify it, she squints and says, "That's not hers." There's disappointment in her voice that doesn't make sense until you understand how desperation works. People start hoping objects will solve what people won't. A week after the murder, the first real suspect takes shape, not from evidence, but from fear. A man named Gavin Roach, known to patrol the neighborhood, known to ask women for cigarettes, known to mutter obscene things under his breath as he follows them too close. He has a record. Assault. Break and enter. The kind of file that makes a detective's pen hover. A uniform picks him up near a shelter after a complaint about harassment. When questioned, he smells like stale beer and cold sweat. He denies knowing Mara. He says he was nowhere near that building. His alibi is nothing. His story changes. He scratches at a scab on his knuckle as he talks. They photograph his hands. They swab under his nails. They take a sample of his blood. Velez watches him with the sharp-eyed patience of someone who knows predators recognize predators. Roach spits on the floor and laughs too loudly, the laugh of someone who wants you to believe he's bigger than he is. For a moment, it feels like the case has a body to hold down. For a moment, it feels like justice might have a spine. Then the lab calls. Blood doesn't match. Roach is filthy, dangerous, a walking threat, but not the one who bled on Mara's wall. The room goes quiet again. A suspect can be wrong in the worst way, not by proving innocence, but by stealing time. The media runs it anyway, because the media loves a monster. Police question local man in Mara Ellison slaying, the lower third banners blare. The neighborhood breathes a little easier for 24 hours. Then the air thickens again when he's released. Hargrove hates that part most, the way the city wants a villain more than it wants the truth. The way a case becomes entertainment. He watches the news replay Mara's smiling photo, watches anchors say her name like it's a product. He turns off the television hard enough that the screen jitters. Velez goes where the story feels raw, Mara's workplace. The print shop is cramped, humming with fluorescent light. Posters line the walls. Ink stains everything like a permanent bruise. Mara's co-workers look older than their years after a week of whispers and police questions. Her boss, a tired man with sagging shoulders, insists she didn't have enemies. Mara was easy, he says, then flinches at his own word choice. Easy to like. Easy to trust. Easy to get close to. A co-worker named Nina mentions a customer, who used to come in late, always right before closing. Paid in cash. Ordered copies of the same document again and again. A man with a limp, she says, or maybe he just walked strange. He looked at Mara like he was trying to memorize her. Nina says she told Mara once, joking, that the guy gave her the creeps. Mara laughed and said Nina watched too many crime shows. Velez writes it down. Limp. Cash. Late. Document copies. It's thin, but thin is better than nothing. She asks for a description. Nina tries. Brown hair. Dark blonde. A scar near the eye. Or was that a shadow? Memory falters under pressure. Still, Velez contacts a sketch artist. They sit in a small room with harsh light. Nina's voice shakes as she describes a face she never expected to have to summon again. The sketch emerges slowly, strong jaw, deep-set eyes, mouth too straight. When it's done, Nina stares at it and whispers, "That looks like trouble." The sketch hits the streets. Flyers go up. A grainy face appears on the news. Tips flood in, too many. Hundreds of calls, each one a thread, most of them frayed. I saw him near the subway. He looks like my cousin. He looks like the guy who delivered pizza. People want to help. People also want to be part of the story. In a city this big, a sketch doesn't narrow the world. It just teaches paranoia a new shape. Then a tip comes in that makes both detectives sit up straight. A woman calls late at night and asks to speak to Velez specifically. Her voice is low, controlled, but there's a crack in it like glass about to break. She says she lived in the building across from Mara. She didn't call earlier because she didn't want to get involved. She says the night Mara died, she woke up around 8:50 to the sound of an engine revving. She looked out her window and saw a gray sedan, older model, dull paint, parked with its lights off. A man stood beside it, smoking. Not nervous. Not rushing. Waiting. Then she saw him glance up toward Mara's building. She watched him flick the cigarette and climb into the car. The sedan pulled away slow, like it had nowhere else to be. Velez asks the woman the color of the man's jacket. The woman hesitates, then says, dark. Hooded. Velez's stomach tightens. Payphone footage. Hooded figure. Gray sedan rumor. Smoke. Waiting. The case begins to assemble itself into an image that still isn't a face, but it's closer. Closer is dangerous. Closer makes you believe. They run the street that night through every possible angle. Traffic cams are rare. Nearby businesses get questioned. One business, a small electronics store, admits they have a security camera that points toward the street. The owner is reluctant until Hargrove's voice drops into the kind of tone that makes doors unlock. They retrieve the tape. The tape is grainy. The angle is bad. The camera jitters in the wind. But there's the street. There's the curb. There's the shadowed silhouette of a car parked too long. At 8:47, someone moves near the sedan. At 8:52, headlights flash once, brief, like a signal. At 8:54, the sedan pulls out and disappears. It's enough to make the room feel electrified. It's not enough for court. It's the kind of evidence that keeps you awake at 3 a.m., because you can almost touch it. They trace gray sedans in the area. They pull registration records, drowning in paperwork. They focus on older models. They look for owners with records. They look for owners connected to payphone locations. The list is still massive. Toronto is full of gray sedans. Toronto is full of men who can disappear. The strangest clue arrives a few days later, in an envelope with no return address. It's addressed to the station. Inside, a VHS tape. No note. No label. Just a cassette wrapped in brown paper, like a gift from hell. The evidence clerk's hands tremble as he logs it. The room smells like dust and old plastic. Hargrove holds it up to the light, and sees faint handwriting scratched into the side. So faint it could be accidental. 3 letters. M.E. Mara's initials. Or a cruel coincidence. They don't play it in the office VCR. They don't trust anything. They send it to tech. The tape is old, but not ancient. It's been handled. The edges are scuffed. Someone wanted it to look found. Someone wanted it to be received. That's the message. I can reach you. I can steer you. When the tech finally gets it running, the screen fills with static, snow, hiss, rolling lines, then a sudden burst of image. A room. Dim, a lamp in the corner. A man's shoulder in frame, out of focus. A voice, muffled, close to the microphone, like he's speaking through cloth. Not a confession. Not a name. Just a sentence that lands like a bullet. You're looking in the wrong place. Then static again. Nothing else. No fingerprints. No usable prints, anyway. Just smears. Just handling. Just absence. The tape doesn't solve the case. It deepens it. It turns the murder into a game. The city hears rumors within hours. Police deny it. The press hints at it. People talk. People invent. Every subway car becomes a gallery of suspicion. Every hooded jacket looks like a threat. Every grey sedan seems to idle a little longer than it should. Mara's brother stops sleeping. Shannon stops answering unknown numbers. The landlord installs brighter lights in the hallway and pretends it's for safety, not guilt. And somewhere, in all that noise, the blood sample sits in a freezer, labeled with a case number, waiting for the day the world becomes small enough to name it, waiting like a heartbeat trapped in ice, waiting like the city itself, tense, listening, certain that the next sound it hears will either be a breakthrough, or another thump in the dark. The tape doesn't just speak, it taunts, and in a homicide unit the difference matters, because a taunt means the killer is still warm somewhere in the city, still breathing the same air, still tasting the aftershock. You're looking in the wrong place. 4 words, muffled, low, deliberately strangled by fabric or distance, and yet they slide under the skin of the entire investigation like a splinter you can't dig out. Hargrove plays it again, then again, then again until the sentence loses meaning and becomes rhythm, and in that rhythm he starts hearing the things he hates: confidence, control, amusement. Velez doesn't let herself blink. She stares at the monitor the way you stare down an animal you can't afford to fear, and the static hissing around the voice starts to feel like laughter from the walls. They send the audio to a specialist across town who works in a cramped lab that smells like soda and old coffee, a room full of dials, spools, and machines that look like they belong in a submarine. The tech isolates frequencies, scrapes the noise away a layer at a time, trying to carve a face out of fog. Nothing clean emerges. Just fragments, a consonant sharpened, a breath lengthened, a faint background hum that suggests, maybe fluorescent lights, maybe a fridge motor, maybe nothing. Still, the tech circles one detail: the voice is likely male, adult, measured. Not slurred. Not panicked. Not young enough to be reckless. Someone with patience. Someone with the kind of calm that comes from planning. That calm infects the squad room. It makes every detective feel late, like the killer is always a step ahead, always already gone. They reopen every door they thought they'd checked. They push harder on Derek, the ex, because exes are easy and easy feels like progress. Derek returns with the same rehearsed story, the same friend who swears they watched hockey, the same smug irritation that reads as either innocence or arrogance. Hargrove asks him about the VCR. Derek laughs, too quick. Why would I take her VCR, he says, like the question itself is stupid. Hargrove doesn't answer. He just watches Derek's hands as he talks. Hands that don't stop moving, hands that betray the mouth. Velez notices the faint scar near Derek's index finger. Old. Not relevant. But it plants itself in her mind anyway, because in a case like this you start collecting tiny things the way drowning people collect air. They lean into the print shop lead, because it's the only lead that smells human. Nina's description. The late customer. The repeated copies of the same document. The limp, maybe. The cash. They pull receipts, sift through carbon copies and cash logs, but cash is a black hole in the 90s, no trail, no name, only the memory of someone behind a counter. The boss remembers a man, yes, but can't place him. He wasn't loud, he says. He didn't stand out. That's how predators survive. They don't stand out until they stand over you. Velez visits Nina again, this time without the sketch, without the pressure, just her voice and a notebook. She asks Nina to describe the man's shoes. Nina frowns. Shoes. That's not what people remember. They remember eyes. They remember hands. They remember the feeling of being watched. But Nina tries. She says the shoes were dark, maybe boots, maybe work shoes. She says she heard a scrape when he walked, like rubber against tile. Velez asks if the man ever spoke to Mara directly. Nina says yes, once, she heard him say, "You're good at this," meaning the copies, the neatness, the speed. A compliment. Small. Normal. But compliments can be hooks. Compliments can be bait. They run through missing persons reports, through complaints, through records of men with harassment charges around that area. They cross-reference phone booths, payphone locations, and the addresses of known offenders who frequent them. The map on the wall turns into a spiderweb of red pins. The web doesn't point to one place. It points to a behavior, someone who knows the transit lines, someone who moves with intention, someone who prefers the city's blind spots. Then the case shifts. Not forward. Sideways. A different kind of shock. Shannon calls Velez at 11:38 p.m. on a Tuesday, her voice shredded, whispering like the walls are listening. Someone called my house, she says. They didn't say anything. Just breathing. Velez asks if Shannon recognized it. Shannon says no, but she felt it. The same pressure Mara described. That same invisible weight of being watched through a wire. Velez tells her to stay on the line, tells Hargrove to get a trace, and for a split second the squad room lights feel too bright, too harsh, as if the whole building is exposed. The trace fails. Not because they're incompetent, because the call is too short. 10 seconds. Enough to terrify. Not enough to catch. Hargrove slams his fist into his desk, so hard a coffee cup tips and spills. Brown liquid spreads across papers like blood. Nobody jokes. Nobody moves. Because now the killer isn't just gone. He's still active. Still reaching. Still pulling threads. The press gets wind of the call within days, because secrets leak in a case that hot, always, and the city's fear spikes again. Headlines sharpen into knives. Killer taunts police. Friend of victim targeted. The community starts seeing patterns in everything. People report strangers leaning too close. People swear they are being followed. An entire city becomes a witness to its own paranoia. And somewhere in that frenzy, the real killer blends in perfectly, because nothing hides you better than noise. Velez goes back to Mara's apartment building in the evening, when the hallway is dim and the air feels heavy, when the light fixture buzzes like it did that night. She stands outside Mara's door, different lock now, fresh paint on the frame, and she listens. Nothing. But she can't shake the sense that the building remembers. She talks to the tenant, who moved into Mara's unit after. A young man who avoids eye contact, who says he doesn't like to think about it. Then, almost reluctantly, he mentions something that makes Velez's spine tighten. He's found a loose floorboard near the bedroom closet. He says it was already loose when he moved in. He never thought much of it. But last week it shifted when he stepped on it, and he saw something dark underneath. Something shoved into the gap. Velez calls for crime scene techs. They pry up the board. Underneath is dust, old nails, and a small plastic bag, yellowed with age, sealed and folded tight like someone wanted it preserved. Inside the bag is a key. Small, silver, ordinary. No tag. No markings. Just a key, hidden under a floorboard in a murder victim's apartment like a secret in a coffin. Hargrove turns the key over in his fingers, eyes narrowed. The room goes quiet around it. Keys mean locks. Locks mean doors. Doors mean places. Places mean answers. Or traps. They test the key on Mara's current locks. Doesn't fit. They test it on the building's main door. Doesn't fit. They test it on the basement storage cages. Doesn't fit. It belongs somewhere else. Somewhere close enough that Mara, or someone, could reach. Somewhere significant enough to hide it instead of carrying it. They canvas lockers, subway station lockers, old gym lockers, storage units, padlocked rooms. It takes days. It takes paperwork. It takes favors. They check a nearby self-storage facility, with narrow corridors, and metal doors lined up like tombs. The manager, a woman with tired eyes, insists there's no unit under Mara's name. Velez asks to search for similar names, 4 recently closed units, 4 units paid in cash. The manager hesitates, then agrees. They scroll through records. Most of it is useless. Then one entry catches Hargrove's eye. A unit rented 2 weeks before Mara's death, paid in cash, name listed as M. Ellis. Close enough to be accidental, close enough to be intentional. The unit is still active. The lock is still on. They bring the key. The key fits. The door rolls up with a metallic scream that echoes down the corridor like the building itself is protesting. Inside, a stale smell, cardboard, dust. Stacked boxes. A folded chair. A cheap lamp. And in the back, covered by a tarp, a shape that looks like a body until it doesn't. It's a television. Beside it, a VCR, black, scratched, missing a rubber foot. Mara's VCR. Shannon identifies it immediately, hand flying to her mouth, eyes filling. That's hers, she whispers. That's the one. The detectives don't touch it barehanded. They bag it like it's a live grenade. They scan for prints. Smudges. Partial fingerprints that could be anyone. And then, another detail, another shiver, the VCR's tape slot isn't empty. There's a cassette inside. They take it to the lab. They don't play it in the unit. They don't want the killer's hands on their machines, not metaphorically, not literally. The tape is labeled in black marker with a single word, home. The handwriting is blocky, careful, almost childish in its neatness. Not Mara's handwriting. Shannon swears it. The label is bait. Or it's a threat. Or it's the sickest kind of joke. When they finally play it in a controlled environment, the picture jumps and swims before settling. Home video footage. Shaky. Dim, a camera panning across a room, a familiar room, Mara's living room. The couch. The table. The window. Mara's voice off camera, laughing, telling someone to stop filming. A man's voice answers, soft, teasing, affectionate. The camera swings and catches Mara's face for half a second. She looks alive, unguarded, annoyed in the playful way people are when they feel safe. She reaches toward the camera, laughing. Paul, stop, she says, Paul. Not Hargrove. Someone else. Stop, you're going to drop it. The camera dips. A hand enters frame, male hand, then the footage cuts abruptly, like someone hit stop too hard. Hargrove and Velez freeze on that frame. Male voice. Male hand. The name Paul. Mara wasn't dating anyone named Paul, at least not officially. Her brother never mentioned a Paul. Shannon never mentioned a Paul. The file has no Paul. The case just grew a new shadow. They rewind. They play again. They enhance the audio. They isolate the male voice. It's clearer than the taunt tape, clearer than the payphone breathing. It has texture. It has warmth. It also has something else, a faint rasp, a habit of dragging the S sound. The tech notes it. Velez notes it. Hargrove notes it. It's a fingerprint made of air. Then the camera catches something else in the background, just for a second, on the table near the window. A sheet of paper. A document. The same kind of document Nina said the late customer copied repeatedly. The camera pans too fast to read it, but the formatting is distinctive, blocks of text, bold header, a signature line near the bottom. Hargrove feels his throat go dry. It's not proof, but it's a bridge between two clues that have been floating apart like islands. They dig into Mara's personal life harder now, not with gentle questions, but with the force of inevitability. They pull her bank records. They pull her mail. They pull her phone directory. They talk to her brother again, Shannon again, co-workers again, and each time they ask, who is Paul? Each time they get the same answer. Silence, confusion, denial, the soft terror of realizing you didn't know someone as well as you thought. Finally, a co-worker cracks. An older woman named Evelyn, who kept to herself, who watched everyone with the quiet suspicion of someone who's seen too much, admits she once heard Mara mention a Paul in the break room. Not a boyfriend. Not a friend. She said he was persistent, Evelyn says. She said he had this way of turning up, like he knew where she'd be. Evelyn pauses, eyes glistening with guilt. She said he knew things. About her schedule. About her building. About things he shouldn't. Velez feels the case tighten like a noose. Persistent. Turning up. Knowing schedules. Payphones. Breathing calls. A key hidden under a floorboard. A storage unit rented under a near name. A VCR taken not to steal, but to control. This isn't random. This isn't impulsive. This is a man orbiting a woman until the orbit collapses into impact. And still, they don't have a last name. They don't have a face. They don't have a match for that blood sample, because Canada's DNA infrastructure, in 1998, is a patchwork of local databases and luck. No national net. No easy hits. A killer with no prior blood record is a ghost. A killer with a prior record, but no collected DNA, is still a ghost. Hargrove stares at the blood vial in the freezer and feels like time itself is laughing at him. Then, like the city can't help twisting the knife, another call comes, this time to the station switchboard. The operator's eyes widen as she listens. She signals Velez with a shaking hand. Velez grabs the phone, says, "This is Detective Velez." Silence. Then a breath. Slow. Controlled. And a voice, closer now than it should ever be, wrapped in that same muffled texture, drops a sentence that makes the fluorescent lights feel suddenly cold. "You found what I wanted you to find." The line clicks dead. No trace. Again. 10 seconds. Again. Just enough to poison the air. Just enough to prove that whoever did this isn't gone. He's watching. He's directing. He's enjoying the chase like it's a film playing in his head, like the city is his set and Mara's death was only the opening scene. And in the dark corners of Toronto, in the places between streetlights, in the spaces between footsteps, the question starts spreading with the speed of panic. If the killer can plant tapes, plant keys, rent storage units under almost real names, call friends in the night and call detectives in their own building, then what else can he do, and how close has he been the entire time, standing in line beside you, breathing quietly, waiting for you to look the wrong way. The storage unit smells like cardboard and old secrets, and the metal door, half raised, teeth bared, feels less like an entrance and more like a throat, ready to swallow whatever courage you brought with you. The VCR sits in the evidence bag like a rescued hostage, but nobody in that narrow corridor celebrates, because nobody believes in clean victories anymore, not after the phone calls, not after the static, not after a voice that treats homicide like a broadcast. Hargrove keeps staring at the rental ledger the manager finally hands over, eyes dragging across dates and numbers, because somewhere between those lines is the hand that reached into Mara's life and rearranged it. M. Ellis, paid in cash, 2 weeks before she died, signature tight and careful, the kind of signature that thinks it's smarter than the world. Velez doesn't look at the signature for long. She looks at the manager. She asks who saw the renter, who took the money, who watched the lot go on. The manager points them to a night shift clerk, named Daryl, who wears a uniform like it's armor, and keeps a folded newspaper on the counter like a shield. Daryl is jittery from the attention, from the word murder hanging in the air. He says he remembers the guy. Not because he stood out. Because he didn't. He was polite, Daryl says, voice small. Too polite. Like customer service. Daryl says the renter asked questions about camera blind spots. Not openly. Just casually. Do you guys record all the time? Does the tape get reused? How long do you keep it? Daryl laughs when he tells it, but it's the laugh people make when they're trying not to look at their own guilt. They take Daryl into the back office, Fluorescent lights buzzing like insects, and they ask for surveillance tapes. He slides open a cabinet and pulls out a stack of VHS cassettes with dates written in marker. 2 weeks ago. The night the unit was rented. The tape feels warm in Velez's hand like it's been waiting. They play it on a dusty monitor right there in the office. The time stamp flickers. The picture is grainy, washed out, but it captures the front desk, the door, the hallway beyond. Customers drift through like ghosts, someone hauling a box, someone signing papers, someone arguing about a late fee. Then the timestamp hits 7:14 p.m., and a man walks in. He's wearing a dark jacket. Hood down, but the collar up. Baseball cap low. He pauses just inside the door as if letting his eyes adjust, as if tasting the room. He doesn't look at the camera. That's the first thing. Most people glance. This man doesn't. He walks to the desk, leans in, speaks. The tape has no audio, but you can see the clerk's smile, the clerk's nod, the clerk's hands moving. The man's hands stay still, tucked close to his body, controlled. He signs. He pays. He turns slightly, and for half a second the camera catches his face. It isn't clear enough to call it an identification. But it's enough to ruin sleep. Strong jaw. Hollow cheeks. Eyes that look like they're always measuring distance. Velez pauses the tape. Hargrove leans in until his breath fogs the screen. That face doesn't scream danger. That's what makes it worse. It looks like the face of someone you'd hold a door open for. They photograph the screen. They take the tape. They bag it, label it, and walk out of the storage facility with the sensation that the city is tilting slightly beneath their feet. The renter isn't a rumor anymore. He's an image. A shape. A mouth that can speak. A hand that can sign. Back at the station, they compare that face to Nina's sketch. It's not a match you'd bet your life on, but it rhymes. The same mouth. The same set to the eyes. The same lack of expression, blank enough to become anything. They run the alias. M. Ellis gives them nothing because it's designed to give them nothing. But the rental agreement has more than a name. It has an address. Not a home address, just a mailing address, a rented mailbox across town. A place where anonymity is sold by the month. Velez drives there with 2 uniforms, the kind of quiet convoy that feels like stalking in reverse. The mailbox store is narrow, brightly lit, full of greeting cards and packing tape and cheap pens. Behind the counter, a clerk with a bored face asks what they want. Velez shows her badge. The clerk's boredom collapses into fear. They get the box number. They get the registration form. Another signature. Another careful lie. The ID used is from out west, a driver's license number that doesn't exist. The phone number listed belongs to a payphone. But there's a small mistake, tucked into the paperwork like a crack in armor. The renter listed an emergency contact. A name. A real name. Not M. Ellis. Not M. Ellison. A name that hits the room like a dropped weight. Paul Mercer. Hargrove says it out loud once, testing it, and the sound of it fills the office in a way that makes everyone look up. Paul. The name Mara spoke on the tape. Paul. The name that has been a shadow at the edge of every clue. Velez feels the case tighten around that syllable. Paul Mercer. Not just a first name anymore. A full person. A man who can be searched, tracked, dragged into light. They run it through databases. The results come back fast enough to feel like fate. Paul Mercer, 34, no major convictions, minor infractions, noise complaint, parking tickets, a charge for trespassing that was dropped. He works contract security. Not a cop, but adjacent to authority. Close enough to wear a uniform sometimes. Close enough to know how systems work. Close enough to learn where cameras point and where they don't. His last known address is in a rooming house near the junction, the kind of place with too many locks and not enough safety. They move on it immediately, because in a case like this you learn the hard way that shadows don't wait. Hargrove calls for a warrant. Velez calls for backup. The squad room sharpens. Radios crackle. Doors slam. Somewhere in the building, someone laughs at a joke that has nothing to do with murder, and it sounds obscene. They arrive at the rooming house at dusk, when the sky turns the color of bruised metal. The building is narrow, peeling paint, broken porch light. A cigarette, but graveyard around the steps. A woman on the porch watches them approach, and slips inside without a word. They knock on the front door. No answer. They knock again. The door opens a crack and a landlord's face appears, thin, suspicious, eyes darting. Velez shows the warrant. The landlord's expression flickers between annoyance and fear. He steps aside. The hallway inside is cramped, stale air, cheap carpet, the smell of fried food and old sweat. Doors line both sides like teeth. They reach Mercer's door. Hargrove nods. A uniform swings the battering ram. The door pops on the second hit. It opens onto a small room, bed, dresser, a folding chair, a TV with a VCR under it that isn't Mara's. The curtains are drawn. The air is cold. The room is empty. Empty, but not untouched. The bed is made too tight. The dresser drawer is open a finger's width, echoing Mara's. A duffel bag is missing. The closet has hangers swinging slightly like something recently pulled free. Velez crosses to the desk and sees a stack of papers neatly arranged. Not trash. Not clutter. A curated mess, left behind either by haste or by intention. She flips the top page and her stomach drops. It's a photocopied legal form. Bold header. Blocky paragraphs. A signature line. The same formatting they caught on Mara's home tape. The form is for a peace bond, a request for protection, a legal barrier erected when someone feels threatened enough to put it on paper. The name on the form isn't Paul Mercer's. It's Mara Ellison. Hargrove steps closer, reads, and the room suddenly feels too small for the air in it. Mara had started this process. Quietly. Without telling her brother. Without telling Shannon. Without telling co-workers. She'd been gathering paperwork, making copies, maybe rehearsing the courage required to walk into a courthouse and say a name out loud. And someone, had been copying these documents too, like studying a script. Like preparing for the scene where it all ends. Velez opens the next folder. Inside are photographs. Not family photos. Not vacations. Surveillance shots. Mara at the corner store. Mara walking from her print shop. Mara stepping into her building, grocery bags in hand. Shot after shot, different days, different angles, the same subject, the same unknowing face. The pictures are printed on cheap paper, but the intent is expensive: time, patience, obsession. In one photo, Mara turns her head slightly as if she senses something, eyes narrowed, and the image captures the exact moment innocence begins to doubt itself. Velez feels her pulse in her throat. She looks at Hargrove. Hargrove looks at the photographs like they are bites taken out of reality. In the closet, a uniform finds a small plastic organizer box. Inside, keys. Not one. Many. Keys with no labels. A ring of them. Some with red caps. Some bare metal. The kind of keys that open storage units, mailboxes, padlocks, doors you're not supposed to touch. The kind of keys that make you wonder how many times Paul Mercer has been somewhere he shouldn't be. And then, the item that makes the hairs on Velez's arms rise. A roll of beige phone cord, coiled neatly, brand new. The same color as Mara's kitchen phone. The same thickness. The same cheap plastic sheen. It isn't proof. It's worse. It's suggestion. It's a prop waiting backstage. They bag everything. They photograph everything. They call it in. But the man they came for isn't there. That absence is a scream. They interrogate the landlord, who insists Mercer paid cash and kept to himself. Quiet guy, he says. Worked nights, I think. Velez asks when he last saw him. The landlord shrugs. Yesterday, he says. Or the day before. Hard to remember. Hard to remember is how monsters survive. Hargrove steps outside to call it in, and the evening air hits him like cold water. Across the street, a grey sedan rolls slowly past the house, lights on, driver's face obscured by the angle. It doesn't speed. It doesn't hesitate. It just passes like it belongs. Hargrove's eyes lock onto it. Something in his gut twists. He shouts, but the word comes out too late. The sedan turns the corner and disappears into traffic, swallowed by the city like a secret returning to the mouth that made it. They put out a bolo. They push Mercer's photo to patrol units. They tell every officer in the division to look for him, to stop him, to bring him in. The city becomes a net thrown too late. Velez drives to Mercer's workplace next, a security company office tucked into a strip mall. The receptionist's smile collapses when she sees badges. Paul Mercer, the manager repeats, blinking. He quit, he says. Last week. Quit. Convenient. Like someone stepping off a stage before the curtain falls. They trace his last paycheck. Cashed. In person. They trace the bank branch. The teller remembers him because he was polite, because he smiled, because he said, "Have a good day," like a normal man. The teller describes him, cap, jacket, a faint scrape on his knuckle like he'd hit something. Velez asks if he bled. The teller hesitates. A little, she admits. Just a spot on the counter. I wiped it. Velez feels the blood vial in the freezer like a weight across the city. They send text to the bank. Too late. The counter has been cleaned 100 times since. The spot is gone. Again, time erases evidence with the casual cruelty of routine. Shannon is brought in and shown Mercer's photo. Her face drains of color. She swears she's never seen him. Then she looks again, longer, and something shifts behind her eyes. I don't know, she whispers. Maybe. There was a guy once, outside Mara's building. He asked if she lived there. I thought he was a delivery guy. Her voice breaks. He smiled. Mara's brother is shown the photo and explodes into rage, grief turning his hands into fists. If you know it's him, go get him, he snarls. Hargrove doesn't answer, because what do you say when the truth is you can't grab smoke? They dig into Mercer's past. Old roommates. Old girlfriends. Old employers. Patterns emerge like bruises. A former girlfriend describes him as intense. Not violent, she says, just present. He'd show up, she says, eyes staring at a memory she hates. At my work. At my gym. At my friend's place. Like it was romantic. Another woman says he used to leave messages where he didn't speak, just breathed, then hung up. I thought it was a prank, she says softly. I changed my number. They find an old complaint filed and withdrawn. Harassment. No charges. No conviction. Just paper. Paper that never turned into handcuffs. Paper that did nothing. The most damning discovery comes from courthouse records, pulled with sweaty hands and tired eyes. Mara Ellison had scheduled a peace bond hearing. The date was 2 days after she died. She was going to walk into a room, swear under oath that she feared someone, say his name, and ask the state to draw a line between them. The respondent listed on the paperwork is Paul Mercer. Velez stares at the record until the ink blurs. So Mara knew. Mara wasn't just sensing. Mara was acting. Quietly, carefully, trying to protect herself without sparking a war. And Paul Mercer, if this is Paul Mercer, knew the date too. He knew the line was coming. He knew the world was about to see him. And he moved first. They should have been able to lock onto him now. With that paperwork. With those photos. With the storage unit footage. With the VCR. With the calls. With the stalking cache in his room. But the city is still a maze, and Mercer is still a man who understands mazes. He knows how to step through crowds. He knows how to become ordinary. He knows how to disappear into transit stations and late-night diners and the blind angles between streetlights. A week passes with no arrest. 2. The headlines start to curdle. Police close in, then suspect at large, then will Mara get justice? The city's attention wavers the way attention always does, tugged away by new tragedies, new scandals, new distractions. But in the homicide unit, the case doesn't fade. It hardens. It becomes something you carry in your chest like a second heart. Late one night, as Velez is leaving the station, she notices something on her windshield, a single photocopied page tucked under the wiper blade. She freezes, keys in hand, breath turning sharp. The paper flutters in the wind like it's alive. She pulls it free slowly, expecting a threat, a confession, a name. It's a copy of Mara's peace bond form. Across the top, in black marker, one sentence is written in tight, careful block letters. She was too late. Velez looks around the parking lot. Street lights hum. Cars sit silent. No footsteps. No movement. Just the city pretending nothing is happening. She feels, for the first time, not like she's chasing a killer, but like she's being chased right back, like the case has teeth and it's clamped down on all of them. And somewhere out there, a man who knows how to use payphones and cash and keys and silence is still moving, still watching, still choosing when to step into light, and when to leave nothing behind but paper and breathing and the long, cold certainty that this isn't over, not even close. The paper on Velez's windshield flutters like a living thing, and for a moment she can't tell if the cold in her chest is fear or fury, because whoever placed it there didn't just trespass into her space. They walked straight into the perimeter of the investigation and proved, quietly, arrogantly, that the perimeter is imaginary. She was too late, the words say, and the city around her pretends it didn't hear them, streetlights buzzing, tires hissing on wet asphalt, the station behind her glowing sterile and helpless. She stands there longer than she should, scanning shadows that refuse to shape into a body, and when she finally gets into her car her hands tremble just enough to make the keys scrape the ignition twice before catching, the engine sputtering to life like it's waking from a nightmare that never ended. Hargrove doesn't speak when she places the photocopy on his desk the next morning. He just stares at the marker ink as if it might still be wet, as if the writer might be lurking nearby with the pen capped and ready. The paper is evidence, but it's also a message, and the message is not subtle. I can reach you. I can touch your life. I can decide when you see what I want you to see. The squad room feels tighter after that, voices lower, laughter extinct, phones ringing like alarms. The detectives don't say it out loud, but it's there in their eyes. If Mercer can get into a police parking lot and leave something on a detective's car, he's either brave or he's certain the system can't catch him. Brave men make mistakes. Certain men don't. Certain men plan. They dust the paper for prints. Nothing usable. They swab it. No clear DNA. The photocopy itself is clean, like it was handled with gloves, or wiped down, or never touched at all in the human way you think of touching, folded inside another sheet, slid under the wiper with the edge of a sleeve, placed like a ritual. The paper comes from a common office copy stock, the kind used in 100 stores, 1,000 back rooms. The original form is courthouse paperwork. The photocopy is a copy of a copy, and the ink on top is the only personal thing about it. Hargrove holds it up and looks for indentations, for pressure marks, for anything. The sheet gives him nothing. It's the blankness that makes him grind his teeth. They widen the circle. If Mercer is stalking them now, the investigation has become a two-way street, and Hargrove refuses to be the one walking backward. They pull every report connected to Paul Mercer's name, the withdrawn harassment complaint, the dropped trespass charge, the noise complaint that reads like a joke until you realize someone felt unsafe enough to call the police. They interview the ex-girlfriend again, a woman named Tanya, who looks exhausted by memory. She tells them he used to leave things, photocopies, notes, harmless objects that didn't feel harmless once they started appearing in patterns. A newspaper clipping left on her doorstep, circled in red. A bus transfer ticket tucked into her mailbox. Her own handwriting copied and taped to her door like a mirror. He liked proof, Tanya says, voice shaking. He liked showing you he could get close without you knowing. Valesse hears it and feels her skin tighten. Proof. That's what the VCR was. That's what the tape was. That's what the key under the floorboard was. Mercer isn't just hiding. He's curating. He's collecting trophies that don't look like trophies, because trophies that look innocent can be displayed in plain sight. They check Mercer's room again, combing it with new eyes, not for weapons, not for blood, but for ritual. In the bottom of the dresser, under folded shirts, they find a small black notebook wrapped in plastic. Hargrove opens it carefully, like he expects it to bite. Inside are dates and times, written in neat block letters, columns like a ledger. Some entries are mundane, bank, 3:10, mail, 7:20. Others are chilling because of how ordinary they look beside the horror. Mara, 6:05, Mara, 7:12, Mara, 8:40. Not a confession, not a description of violence, just tracking, like she's an appointment. Valesse flips further and finds a line that makes her throat go dry. Hearing, Thursday. The peace bond. He knew. He wrote it down. He made it another entry, another time slot. They send the notebook to document examiners. The handwriting on the home tape label is compared. Similar. Not definitive. But the same tight discipline, the same squared-off letters that look like someone trying to erase their personality. They compare the marker ink from the photocopy left on Valesse's windshield. Common brand. No purchase trail. No obvious link. Just a scream in generic form. The blood sample becomes their obsession again. Not because it can talk, but because it's the only thing that might. They try every local database. No match. They reach out to other provinces. No match. The technology is too young, the net too small. In 1998, DNA is a miracle with short arms. It can point to someone only if that someone is already known to the system. Mercer, if it's him, has lived near authority without being captured by it. He's adjacent. He's careful. He's a man who knows how to avoid leaving the kind of evidence the future would love. Then the first real crack appears in the shape of a call from a patrol officer in Etobicoke. A grey sedan has been stopped for a broken taillight. The driver is nervous. The car smells like cigarettes. The officer ran the plates and something pinged, an old report, a flagged alias, a name that shouldn't matter, but now does, Paul Mercer. Hargrove and Velez move like their bodies are spring-loaded. The drive feels endless, city lights streaking, siren muted but present, that low wail like a heartbeat. When they arrive, the sedan is at the curb, hazard lights blinking. The driver stands beside it, hands on the hood, a uniform's flashlight carving harsh angles into his face. He's not Paul Mercer. He's older. Thinner. Eyes too watery. The kind of man who looks like life has already convicted him of something. He turns, confused, scared. I'm not him, he says before anyone asks, as if he's been running from accusation his whole life. The plates are registered to a woman. The car was reported sold months ago. The driver says he bought it cash from a man at a parking lot, no paperwork. The man called himself Paul. Of course he did. He says the seller wore a cap, spoke softly, told him the tail light was already cracked, but it's fine if you don't drive at night. The driver laughs nervously as he repeats it, then stops laughing when he sees Velez's face. They search the sedan. Nothing. No VCR. No papers. No trophies. Just cigarette ash in the cup holder and a faint smear on the steering wheel that could be grease, could be dirt, could be anything. They swab it anyway. They send it to the lab anyway. The driver is released with a warning and 1,000 questions he can't answer. Another almost. Another ghost slipping through a net. Back at the station, the lab calls with news that feels like a punch wrapped in hope. The swab from the steering wheel contains trace blood. Degraded. Tiny. But blood. They compare it to the unknown blood from Mara's wall. It's a match. The squad room goes silent in a way that doesn't feel like peace. It feels like a trap closing. The grey sedan wasn't just a rumor. It wasn't just a witness's fear. It was real. And the same blood that stained Mara's entryway has been in that car. Whoever bled in her apartment has driven that sedan. Whoever bled in her apartment sold that sedan. Whoever bled in her apartment is still moving objects around like chess pieces. Now the chase becomes physical. They broadcast the update. They start hunting not just Mercer, but the sedan's path, where it was, where it went, who saw it. They revisit the electronics, store tape, and enhance again. They comb the storage facility footage frame by frame for details. The man's shoes, the set of his shoulders, a ring on his hand, anything. They catch a glint at one moment, something metallic on his left hand. A ring. A key. A coin. The image is too poor to tell, but it becomes another hook. Another thing to search for. They trace the mailbox store again. They ask the clerk if the renter ever came back. The clerk says yes, once, 3 days after Mara's murder. He arrived early morning, before the city woke up. He collected mail without speaking much. He wore a cap. He was polite. He smiled. That word again. Smile. Like a mask fitted perfectly. They ask what he took. The clerk shrugs. Envelopes, she says. A small box. A box. Velez feels the case tilt. Was there a tape? A key? Something mailed to himself like a supply drop. Something he didn't want to carry on his person. They subpoena the mailbox contents records, thin as they are. They find a shipping receipt. The box was sent out, paid cash, destination listed as a rural address outside the city. A farmhouse property registered to an elderly couple. Hargrove feels the blood in his ears. Rural means space. Space means places to hide. Places to hide mean time. They move. 2 unmarked cars, 1 marked unit, and a knot of tension so tight it feels like they are pulling the city behind them. The drive out feels like a descent into quieter danger, highways thinning, buildings becoming trees, the sky widening into something indifferent. They arrive at the address, a weathered farmhouse, peeling paint, a small barn out back. Smoke curls from the chimney. It looks peaceful. Peace is always suspicious now. They approach, hands near holsters, voices low. An elderly man opens the door, blinking in surprise. His wife stands behind him, clutching a dish towel like it's protection. They've never heard of Paul Mercer, they say. They've lived here for 30 years. They don't rent rooms. They don't take packages for strangers. The elderly man's confusion is genuine, and it makes the next part cruel. The officers step inside anyway. They search. They find the box. It's in the barn, tucked behind hay bales, exactly where someone wanted it, hidden but retrievable. The box is taped shut. The shipping label is smeared like it's been wiped. There's no return address. Hargrove opens it with a blade and the tape peels back, with that sticky sound that makes the moment feel intimate in the worst way. Inside are photographs. Not Mara this time. Vales's blood runs cold as she flips through them, because the subject changes and the pattern stays the same. A different woman, mid-30s, dark hair, wearing a work apron, stepping out of a bakery. She's in 3 shots. Then another woman, younger, leaving a gym. 2 shots. Then a third, waiting at a bus stop, head down, unaware. 4 shots. Different faces. Same stalking angle. Same distance. Same obsession. They are not just looking at a murder investigation anymore. They are looking at a predator's catalogue. In the bottom of the box is a notebook page torn cleanly from a pad, and on it, in the same tight block letters, is a list of names. Not full names. First names. Locations. Times. One of them reads, Shannon, 9:10. Another reads, Vales, late. The word late is underlined twice. Vales feels bile rise. The paper isn't just evidence. It's a map drawn with casual malice. It's a sign that Mercer, if it's Mercer, doesn't see these women as people. He sees them as points. Coordinates. Targets. They call in the names. They find one quickly. The bakery woman is real, local, alive. They reach her workplace. She's shaken, confused, crying when they explain. She says she noticed a man watching once, near closing. She thought he was waiting for someone else. She didn't report it. She didn't want to seem paranoid. That sentence lands like a curse, because Mara probably said something similar, once, back when she still believed paranoia was a personality flaw instead of a survival skill. The list isn't long. That's what makes it urgent. It suggests planning, not random browsing. It suggests a timeline. It suggests the predator is cycling, selecting, escalating. The case stops being about what happened to Mara, and becomes about what might happen next. The city shifts under that weight. Patrol units are assigned. Women on the list are contacted, warned, offered protection. Some believe, some don't. Some lock their doors. Some laugh nervously and say, this is insane, because sanity is what you cling to when you can't handle the alternative. Shannon moves in with her sister. Mara's brother buys a baseball bat and keeps it by his bed. Velez starts checking her rearview mirror so often it becomes reflex. Hargrove drives home with different routes every night and doesn't tell anyone, because admitting you're scared feels like giving the killer a win. Then, at 2:17 a.m. on a rainy Thursday, a patrol car spots a man matching Mercer's description near a subway entrance. Hooded jacket. Cap low. Hands in pockets. The officer calls it in. The man turns and walks away fast. Not running. Moving like he knows running attracts attention. The patrol car follows, lights off, keeping distance. The man slips into a side street, then another. He cuts through an alley behind a closed shop. The officers step out, boots splashing in puddles, flashlights scanning. The alley ends at a chain-link fence. Beyond it, a construction site yawns dark and open, heavy equipment sleeping like beasts. They see him then, just a shadow moving between scaffolding. They shout. He runs now, vaulting over a pile of lumber, disappearing behind a cement mixer. The officers chase, breath loud in their ears, radios crackling with adrenaline. Then a sharp sound, metal on metal. A gate slams. A chain rattles. The shadow is gone. When Hargrove arrives, the construction site is a maze of mud and steel. They search for an hour. They find nothing but footprints overlapping, smeared by rain, leading nowhere. In the corner, near a stack of pipes, they find a cigarette, but still damp, still fresh. They bag it. They swab it. It's a tiny thing. But in this case, tiny things are all they have. The lab result comes back 2 days later like a cruel grin, the DNA on the cigarette, but matches the unknown blood sample from Mara's wall. He was there. He was close enough for officers to smell his smoke, close enough to hear their boots, close enough to vanish anyway, slipping through the city's fingers like oil. After that night, the calls stop. The taunts pause. The photocopies disappear. It's as if the predator has decided to go quiet, to retreat, to let the panic simmer without feeding it. That's what terrifies Velez most, silence as strategy. Because a man who stops calling isn't necessarily gone. Sometimes he's simply listening. Weeks stretch. The media moves on. The files stay open. The evidence lockers fill. The unknown blood vial remains the case's heartbeat, steady and maddening. Hargrove starts writing dates on his calendar and crossing them off like they're enemies. Velez keeps the photocopy from her windshield locked in a drawer she never opens unless she wants to remember exactly what it feels like to be hunted. And somewhere in Toronto's endless lanes and stairwells, a man with careful handwriting and an appetite for control has learned something valuable from the chase. The city can look right at him and still miss. The system can close in and still fail. And if he waits long enough, if he becomes just another shadow among shadows, time will do what time always does. Time will erase the edges. Time will dull the urgency. Time will turn terror into rumor. And when the world finally stops watching, when the headline fades and the name Mara Ellison becomes a file number more than a face, that's when the predator's favorite part begins, because nothing is easier to hide than a monster in a case everyone has already started calling cold. The silence that follows a near capture is never empty, it's loaded, it's strategic. It's the kind of quiet that tells you someone has learned exactly how close the jaws came to closing, and has decided to stop feeding the trap. After the construction site, after the damp cigarette, but that proved he'd been there and then wasn't, the city goes back to its routines with the stiff posture of denial, and the investigation keeps moving only because Hargrove and Velez force it to, dragging it forward by the collar even as the world looks away. The calls don't come anymore. No breathing. No 10-second poison. No paper tucked under wipers. No taunting static. Just the case file swelling with new tabs and new dead ends. a thickening stack of paper that starts to feel like a coffin lid being built one sheet at a time. The women on that list, those names found in the barn box, some of them move, some of them change jobs, some of them buy brighter porch lights and better locks and pretend it's just adulthood, not fear. One files a report months later about a man outside her apartment building, hood up, watching the lobby like it's a screen. The report is brief, thin, and it goes nowhere. Another insists she never saw anything and begs police to stop calling, because her husband is starting to ask questions. One answers Velez with a laugh that cracks at the edges. "You can't protect me," she says. "You can barely protect yourselves." Velez hears it, feels it, and hangs up with her jaw clenched hard enough to ache. They keep hunting Paul Mercer anyway, because a name is something to chase, even if it's only the name he decided to use that month, that year, that identity. They run every address connected to him again and again, watching numbers turn into emptiness. The rooming house landlord stops answering calls. The mailbox store clerk quits. The storage facility manager changes shifts. The thread frays in their hands until it's nothing but fibers and anger. In the squad room, the file migrates. It starts on desks, then it moves to shelves, then it ends up in a cabinet that's supposed to be temporary, and temporary turns into months, and months turn into a year, and the cabinet becomes the place cold cases go to become ghosts. Hargrove hates the word cold, because it implies the fire went out naturally, like it wasn't smothered by the world's attention drifting to the next blaze. Velez hates it because it sounds like permission. Mara's brother keeps calling. At first every day. Then every week. Then on anniversaries. Then only when the grief spikes hard enough to puncture his self-control. Each call is the same question with a different voice. What do you have? What are you doing? Why is he still out there? Hargrove gives him what he can, which is never enough. Shannon stops calling entirely. When she does speak to Velez at a chance encounter outside a courthouse, she looks thinner, older, as if the years have been grinding her down grain by grain. "I still hear the breathing sometimes," she says quietly, eyes not meeting Velez's. Even when the phone isn't ringing. In 1999, another woman in Toronto reports being followed by a man who calls her from payphones and says nothing. She's alive. She's scared. She's dismissed by the first officer she talks to, told she's overreacting, told it's probably a prank. The report makes its way to Velez anyway, and Velez's pen digs into paper as she reads. The pattern is too familiar to ignore, but the details are too thin to hold. No name. No plate. No camera. Just a fear that tastes exactly like Mara's last week's tasted. In 2000, the city talks about a new tool like it's science fiction made real, a national DNA databank. It's the kind of thing that would have sounded like magic 2 years earlier, and now it arrives with bureaucracy and forms and careful rules, and every detective in the unit learns to feel hope and skepticism at the same time. Hargrove stares at the unknown blood sample in the freezer, a tiny universe trapped behind glass, and thinks, if that blood ever finds a name, it will be because of this. Velez thinks, if the killer ever makes a mistake that lands him in a cell where they take his DNA, it will be because of this. They submit the profile. They wait for the world to catch up. Waiting becomes part of the case's anatomy. Waiting while tips dry up. Waiting while evidence ages. Waiting while faces blur in memory. Waiting while the city builds new condos and tears down old brick, erasing the physical landmarks that once held the timeline in place. Waiting while payphones disappear from corners one by one, yanked out like teeth, leaving only scars of metal plates on sidewalks. The killer used the city's public mouth to breathe into victims' lives, and now the city removes that mouth, not because it cares about Mara, but because time changes technology, and the world moves on. It's almost poetic. It's also infuriating. The only thing that doesn't move on is the evidence, boxed and sealed, labeled with a date that refuses to become just history. The VCR sits in storage like a relic. The home tape is copied, digitized, analyzed until the footage is worn down by scrutiny. Mara's laugh is played through speakers so many times it stops sounding like a person and starts sounding like a clue, which is the cruelest kind of transformation. The notebook page from the barn box, with Vales's name on it, is locked away, but the ink doesn't fade in her mind. Some nights she wakes up and checks her windows, then hates herself for it, then checks them again anyway. In 2001, a break threatens to surface from the ugliest place, a jailhouse rumor. A man in custody for assault tells a guard he knows about that girl with the VCR. He says it like it's a joke. The guard tells a detective. The detective tells Hargrove. And suddenly the old file is dragged back onto a desk with the rough urgency of a drowning man grabbing air. Hargrove drives to the detention center, sits across from the man, thin, twitchy, eyes darting like trapped mice, and asks what he knows. The man smirks, loving the attention, loving the power of being able to dangle something. He says a guy he used to drink with bragged about messing with cops. He says the guy's name was Paul, maybe. He says the guy had a security uniform once. He says he drove a gray car. Hargrove feels his pulse spike, then immediately distrusts it, because prison is full of men who will sell you any story that buys them an extra cigarette. Hargrove asks for a last name. The man shrugs. He asks for an address. The man shrugs. He asks for anything solid. The man laughs. That's all I got, he says. But it's something, right? It isn't. Not the kind of something that holds up under light. It's smoke. Again. Vales tracks the rumor anyway, because you don't discard smoke when you're freezing. She talks to old security companies, checks employee lists, digs through archives where paper rots in folders. She finds a name that keeps surfacing around the edges. Paul Mercer did contract work at different sites, but so did hundreds of other men. In 1998, he was a ghost with a payroll stub. In 2001, he's a ghost with a trail of untraceable shifts and cash payments. She finds one supervisor who remembers him, quiet, the man says. On time. Never called in sick. Didn't have friends. Vales asks if Mercer ever mentioned a woman named Mara. The supervisor looks confused. No, he says. But he used to watch the cameras a lot. Like more than he needed to. Watching cameras. Knowing blind spots. Asking about tape reuse. The pattern keeps clicking into place, with that horrifying neatness, that makes you wonder if you're seeing truth, or building your own monster out of coincidence. Vales believes it anyway, because when you've stared into a case long enough, doubt becomes unbearable. Years slip. The case gets assigned to a cold case unit. New detectives read old reports, fresh eyes skimming through decades of other people's obsession. Some of them treat it like a job. Some of them feel the pull and don't know why until they see Mara's photo, and the torn phone cord, and the key under the floorboard and realize the case has a personality. It's not just unsolved. It's arrogant. It feels like it's still laughing. Hargrove ages in the file. His hair grays. His shoulders slump. He keeps a copy of Mara's peace bond paperwork in his desk, not as evidence, but as a reminder of the sentence that never got spoken in court. Vales transfers units for a while, tries to outrun the way the case crawls into her sleep, but it follows anyway, because you don't unsee a predator's catalog. You don't unhear a voice telling you you're looking in the wrong place. Even when she works other cases, other murders, other tragedies, she measures them against Mara's, and nothing sits right. By 2005, there's a new kind of cruelty in the air. The world starts treating 1998 like it's ancient, like it's sepia-toned, like it belongs to another era. Younger officers call it that old VCR case. Reporters only mention it on slow news days. The building where Mara died is renovated, marketed, renamed, the hallway repainted in a brighter color like a cosmetic lie. New tenants walk those stairs with coffee in hand and never know they're stepping through a story that still hasn't ended. And then, in 2007, the unknown blood profile pings, just once, not a match, but a partial hit that makes the lab tech's eyebrows lift. A near match in the database. Familial resemblance. It suggests the unknown contributor might be related to someone whose DNA is on file. It's not proof. It's possibility. It's a crack in the wall. The name connected to the partial hit is Evan Mercer, convicted for a violent robbery in another province. Mercer. The same surname as Paul. Not a common surname, not rare either, but the coincidence tastes metallic in Hargrove's mouth. They pull Evan's records. He has a brother listed. A brother named Paul. The file notes a strained relationship. It notes a last known shared address years ago. It notes nothing else helpful, because families are messy and paperwork never captures the rot. Hargrove and Velez, back in the same room for this, drawn together by the old gravity, stare at the lab report in silence. A familial link doesn't hand you a killer. It hands you a door. And doors, in this case, are dangerous. They coordinate with other agencies. They request interviews with Evan Mercer in custody. Evan sits across from them in a visiting room, orange jumpsuit, eyes hard, face carved by resentment. When they ask about Paul, Evan's mouth twists. Haven't seen him in years, he says. Good. He's a creep. The word creeps out like something he's been wanting to say for a long time. Velez leans in. Why, she asks. Evan laughs once, humorless. He gets obsessed, he says. He thinks people belong to him. He watches. He follows. He collects. Collects. The word lands like a key turning. Evan says when they were kids, Paul used to steal things and hide them under floorboards. Not money. Not valuable stuff. Stuff people cared about, Evan says. Stuff you'd miss. He liked controlling it. Evan shrugs like it's childhood nonsense, but Velez hears Mara's VCR being carried downstairs. She hears a photocopy sliding under a wiper blade. She hears breathing on a phone line. Hargrove asks Evan where Paul would go if he wanted to disappear. Evan's eyes narrow. He can't disappear, Evan says. He always needs someone watching. That's his thing. Evan looks straight at Velez then, and his voice drops. If you're looking for him, check the places where he can watch people and not be seen. Security. Cameras. Transit. Office buildings. Parking garages. Places full of blind spots and sight lines. Places where control is built into architecture. They leave the prison with that sentence ringing in their ears. It's not a location. It's a philosophy. It's a predator's habitat. They start mapping Mercer's possible life in the shadows. Old contracts. Old sites. Old employee rosters. They find patterns. He drifted from security gig to security gig, always temporary, always cash-friendly, always near places with foot traffic. Airports. Hospitals. Malls. Office towers. Places where you can watch 1,000 strangers and no one remembers your face, because you're supposed to be there. But each lead ends the same way. He quit. He moved, he vanished, leaving behind only the faint scent of someone who never intended to stay. In 2009, a woman in Ottawa reports a man breaking into her apartment, not to steal, but to rearrange. Her photo frames moved. Her underwear drawer opened and closed again. A single VHS tape missing. She says she's been getting silent calls from payphones. Police treat it as a local oddity. A detective who once worked Toronto cold cases reads the report and feels a chill, because the signature is familiar. He reaches out. He asks for details. It's too late, no DNA collected, no prints, the woman moved, the case file thin and fading. Another missed intersection. Another shadow slipping past. The story keeps doing that, appearing at the edges of other places, other cities, then vanishing before anyone can pin it. As if Paul Mercer, or whoever wore that name, doesn't just move through Toronto. He moves through systems. Through gaps. Through the spaces between departments that don't share information fast enough. Through the years before everything became digital. Through the slow crawl of paperwork that predators love. And through it all, Mara remains frozen at 28, smiling in a photograph that has been handled so many times the edges have softened. Her case remains labeled with a year that keeps getting farther away, like a boat drifting from shore, and the detectives watching it drift feel something worse than grief, the fear that the killer's greatest weapon was never the blunt force, never the torn phone cord, never the tapes or keys or photocopies. It was time. Time that let him step out of the spotlight and become a rumor. Time that let witnesses forget the exact set of his jaw. Time that let payphones vanish and surveillance tapes get recorded over. Time that let a city grow new skin over an old wound. And then, on a morning that feels ordinary enough to be insulting, the lab calls again, voice careful, tone controlled, the way people speak when they know they're holding something that can detonate a room. The national database has updated algorithms now. Better search methods. More profiles. More reach. And the unknown blood profile from Mara's wall, after all these years of waiting in ice, has just found a stronger familial match. Not a brother. A son. A child of the unknown contributor, arrested last week for a minor offense and swabbed like it was routine, like it was nothing. Routine is how monsters get caught. Hargrove feels his breath catch. Valesse grips the edge of the table so hard her fingertips go numb. Because if the blood has family, then the blood has a name somewhere nearby, hiding in paperwork, hiding in genealogy, hiding in the kind of life you build when you think the past can't reach you. And for the first time in years, the case doesn't feel cold. It feels like it's waking up.